But before I do that, the next segment I want to go into, of course, is Afghanistan. And Afghanistan 3 months later. Because we have some quite a lot of things to cover. Not some, honestly. When it is amazing. Afghanistan was one of the reasons why there was a huge dip on Biden's approval. Now, his approval rating was going down before that, but the dip really came after the handling of this withdrawal and the complete incompetence shown to it. The people for withdrawal and for ending the war couldn't seem to grasp or understand that you can be for ending the war, absolutely. But you can still criticize the way we left and the way the withdrawal was handled. That's not going to state that you were against ending the war in any way whatsoever. It's not. The lives lost, the Marines killed, the way that we have not vetted the people getting on there properly, the way that we abandoned our allies to the Taliban, and the way we were tiptoeing any kind of real condemnation against how the Taliban was doing it should be criticized fully. And criticizing those aspects of what happened during the Afghan withdrawal does not negate you wanting to be out of a forever war. It does not. And I think it is very short-sighted, and it doesn't really give you the big picture, and it makes you look uncaring to the consequences of what you want at the end. There has been countless and unnecessary deaths that happened during this withdrawal, and unnecessary deaths with our allies and Americans. We still have people trapped there. It's been over 3 months, and we still have Americans. We still have Afghan allies who are promised visas. We still have all of those people trapped within a Taliban-controlled Afghanistan. This is, and the best we had to muster on it was Jen Psaki stating like, well, now it's up to the Taliban to be seen what they want to be seen as in the world. They don't give a fuck. They never gave a shit. You think they're going to care about, women's rights and treating gay people equally, or like adhering to your fucking pronouns? You are living in a fucking delusion, and an absolute delusion. And as you can see here, I mean, they must consent to marriage. They must consent to marriage. What does that mean? That means when I go to Fuzzy's mom and ask her for her hand in marriage, she has to accept. But I never will, because I still have Dan's mom on the side. Taking away the ability for women to say no, for them to be able to make their own decisions in life, this is not going to end well for the women of Afghanistan. And we can't get our heads out of our own asses here in the United States, where we still think that women are treated worse than women are treated in the Taliban. It's not. There is going to, if we had more voices, if we had Women's March right now going, that is where their fucking efforts should be put in place, is going to the White House and fucking demanding that they have women's rights in Afghanistan, demanding that they show an ounce of regret on what happened to the women and what is going to happen to the women in Afghanistan. an ounce of it. But you don't see that. There's never a march on the Iranian consulate or the Saudi Arabian embassy. There's never a march on it. And there's never going to be a march for the Afghan women that are going to be suffering forever. They are going to be suffering forever. This we talk about we like to bring up, hundreds of years ago for Western civilization, but today we don't want to talk about what's happening in Afghanistan to women. Today we don't want to talk about what's happening to women in Africa. Today we don't want to talk about what's happening to women in the Middle East. No. Because that would be a harsh reality for some people to actually want to talk about. The real oppression that women face day to day within African nations, within Afghanistan, within Saudi Arabia, within Iran. It's easier to pretend like that it's happening here right now, to make yourself sound like you are some righteous person. It's just so pathetic. That's what it is. It's pathetic. It really is. Watching people within the Women's March, watching people who pretend to care about women's rights, to continually be silent when you see stuff like this happen, to pretend like the withdrawal had no consequences whatsoever, but at least we get rid of endless wars. I think there needs to be more vocalization on understanding and realizing the fate we locked in for these women. Before this happened, they were able to go to school. They were going to the universities. They were being part of the government, being journalists, doing all of these things. And now you're not going to see it at all. Never. And instead, what you're going to see is parades with our equipment, proudly going around showcasing that they are going to oppress women with our equipment. They're going to oppress them and the people of Afghanistan with our weapons, with our money, with our military equipment. It's disgusting. It really is. And there is not one person who's paying for this. There's not one person who resigned in shame over the shit that happened within Afghanistan, who was even forced to resign. This is a huge blunder, not just for the Biden administration, but for America as a whole. And for people not to be able to see this is disconcerting to me, because it's a shame on the United States. And it's a shame on the promises and the word and the weight of what the American word means to the world and means to the most vulnerable within the world. And right now, and after this, it means absolute shit. It doesn't mean a damn fucking thing to anyone. If we can't hold our promises and we can't make sure that even the most vulnerable people in Afghanistan are okay, what is our word? What is our intentions? What is any of that? What is the integrity of the United States if it can't keep its word? We went into Afghanistan wrongly. We caused a lot of pain within that country and within that region. But we slowly gave them their own respect as a person. And when I say them, I mean women within Afghanistan, We slowly gave that to them. We slowly gave them the opportunity and the realization that they can be something more than just cattle to the other people around them. We did that. We did. We went in wrong, but we were able to give at least a glimpse to some of them what what they can be, and what they don't have to completely bow down to. And we stripped that away from them completely. And I feel like that's a little bit worse. That is a little bit worse. I mean, you gave them a taste and you took it completely away from them. It's just so wrong. And it was really hilarious that we had Jen Psaki and some other officials within the administration start saying that we have money for the Taliban. We have funds for them and stuff, and that this is going to be this is going to be what we're going to hold hostage, or be able to award them if they do the right thing. But what's funny about that is China doesn't give a fuck about the right thing. And honestly, neither do we as a government. We don't give a fuck about the right thing, because if we did, this is not something we would have done. And to pretend like we are going to hold funds away from the Taliban as a way to make them do right is so pathetic and so short-sighted, and not in our interest whatsoever. Our national interests and our international interests are now gone to shit. You think China gives a fuck if they murder, or they kill, or they hang women, or rape them, or fucking lash them, or kill American allies? You think they give a shit that they have taken American allies from their home into their front yards and executed them right then and there? You think China gives a fuck? They don't. They don't give a shit. And as you can see, China is gaining more of their influence within Afghanistan, because Afghanistan doesn't care about, I mean, the Taliban doesn't care about what strings are attached to the funding or anything else that they're going to get from China or from Iran. I don't give a shit. And it was what I would, and all of this is just back to my original argument of the Afghan withdrawal, and that it was a very huge failure. My one metric in making sure, well, a couple metric, but my main one to making sure that it was not a failure is that there would have been no American deaths and no ally deaths, and we would have gotten them out. And both of them was a huge failure. And what did you have in the fucking media? You had, oh, this is the greatest airlift the world has ever seen in history. Airlift of who? Airlift of what? The argument was also that they were extremely vetted, and it's now coming out that they weren't. Every one of the arguments for this withdrawal and the way that it happened has failed and has crumbled to nothing. The whole withdrawal was a failure. There needs to be accountability for the people who are in charge, who allowed this to happen, because there could have been a proper way to do this, a more civil manner, and not when I say civil manner, I mean like a more responsible manner in getting people out and making sure that they're safe. And I know people like to call the Afghan war like a forever war, and that was happening forever and all of this kind of stuff. But towards the end of it, towards even 5 years ago, the funds and money and all of that kind of stuff that was going into Afghanistan wasn't that great. And when I make this point, the funds that we give places like NATO to make sure shit like Afghanistan doesn't happen, where they're just going around murdering people and completely making women's rights the exact same as sheep. Our funds into that are even more than what we were spending in Afghanistan. And when I say that, I mean like NATO and the UN and all of these stuff. And Aesop, thank you very much for your $5 on the super chat. Our government is no longer capable of even the bare minimum of competence, and that is 100% true. Essentially,